the hypocrisy of it, right? Going back to Jack Herrera's book, it gets the fire burning when you think about an industry that's using and supporting so much of this petroleum plastic waste when we all know that we could be utilizing our own, right? Iconic projection. Yeah, Arcade is awesome. It's my favorite. I love it. Yeah, I mean,
Hey guys, it's Mandi with Global Hemp Association. I wanted to say thank you so much for joining. I'm excited about the opportunity to build a relationship and connect this supply chain. I mean, after all, that's why we started the association. Our association was built on the foundation of connecting supply chain, building relationships, and helping you grow your business. Anyone from farmers, manufacturers, and distributors, people that are passionate about the supply chain, and those creating products selling into biofuels, plastics, textiles, construction, and building materials.
Hi guys, welcome and thank you very much for joining us today. Heather, I'm really excited about this conversation because hemp plastics and the plastics space in general has become such a buzzword. But before we get started, Heather and I were just talking backstage about being able to notify or give yourself a notification about when we go live. And she was saying that on your app or on your phone, you can actually get the notification easier. So I want to remind everybody, up in the corner on our LinkedIn page, there's a little bell that you can click that will remind you, and then also on our YouTube channel. So be sure that you hit subscribe so that when they do go live, you're able to see them. And Heather, do you have any advice for people about where to find our lives?
Where to find their lives?
Yeah, tell me where you went.
It just popped up on my phone because after I downloaded the LinkedIn app, but prior to downloading the LinkedIn app, it didn't do that.
Okay, so there you go. There's a little tip for us. People ask all the time how we find our lives. We do go live on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Most Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Yesterday I double booked us, and so this is a move over. But yeah, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 10 to 11 Mountain Time. So right now. And then I was going to say something else, and then I forgot. Okay, so without further ado, Heather, tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you working on? What got you into this industry?
Well, hello, and thank you, Mandi. I'm so excited to be on. Yeah, so
you're coming to NOCO.
Oh yes, I'll be there. So anybody, please feel free to, if you see me, just be like, hi.
Hey girl, hey.
I've been wanting to go for so many years, so I'm finally like, wow, I actually get to go this year. So it all aligned. But yeah, I guess we're all my hemp revolution fire. You know, that all started back in, I would say, in college. This is about 10 years ago now, 10 plus years ago. Right after I read the book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes.
Hey, that book.
Jack Herrera's book.
I am so proud because talk about somebody that's leaving a legacy and an impact, right? Because Bruce Dietzen also shared that yesterday in his presentation, that it was really what struck his interest to build his hemp car and then move into so much more that he's working on. So for those of you that don't know, get the book. Yeah.
Yes.
Emperor Wears No Clothes.
Oh, yes, Jack Herrera. Oh, Jack Herrera. Yeah, so that's the book. You know, I read this book, and after reading it, I remember writing an extensive research paper. This was in English classes. Again, I went to school at Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, and our professor had us do like a research paper on something that we were really passionate about. So I chose industrial hemp. And I remember writing this, it was like a 7-page research paper about industrial hemp and you know, how it subsequently made cannabis and hemp illegal, or, you know, how it, during this period is when, you know, I'm like reading my notes and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't read my notes because I'm just being free here.
Hey, actually, and it's actually interesting. That's one thing that I have to give you. Oh, look, Bruce just said 14th edition is available. So he's listening. Hi, Bruce. It's good to see you on here. But yeah, just another awesome testament. But kudos to the notes. I actually, yesterday when I was giving my presentation, I didn't leave notes, and I found myself like reading my presentation so fast. And then I was like, wait a minute, I had stuff I needed to put in there. And so
yeah, I do that too.
And then for other people, if you're listening, I'd love, you know, let us know where you're at. Go ahead and chime in. Feel free to ask Heather questions or I any questions. So Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, where I left off is just, you know, writing about how the industrial hemp and the irony behind it, right? It's like, wow, we have the petroleum industry, we have the lumber industry, you got DuPont out there who are terrified of this plant, or just absolutely terrified of this plant. And how could they still make a profit? Well, it was criminalizing it. It was creating the yellow papers. William Randolph Hearst, which I live out here in California, and in Central Coast is where I went to school. But William Randolph Hearst has a huge castle there, and I've been there. But that is one of the main guys who was behind, yeah, exactly. Thank you for the word, demonizing industrial hemp. And so this really fueled my fire. Honestly, this really fueled my fire into my passion into the industrial hemp world. I'm like, how crazy is this? They're so terrified of this plant. It's just making them shake in their boots. Yeah, when they know that it could take over. I even I took ceramics also in college because I had a lot of labs. I wanted to take a class that was easy, in between all the And so
I said that once about yoga, and it ended up not being the easiest class.
I took bowling too. Actually, I took a bowling class. It was so funny, but I loved it. But in ceramics, our teacher had recommended, all right, guys, I want you to pick a relic. A relic is something that you cherish in life. So I chose a hemp rope. And then it was create a reliquary. And a reliquary is something that you put your relic inside of to keep it safe. And so I made a ship. I made a ship out of clay. And on the outside of the ship, I had clothes made. I had a little oil barrel, just basically explaining the story of industrial hemp and how we used to utilize it.
And what an awesome experience.
I wish I had it with me. It's at my mom's house still. But inside of the ship was you pick up the ship or the steering mast. I'm not sure if that's the right word. Steering mast. And inside of that was the hemp rope, and so that's where my relic was. And so it's so crazy because I don't know if that sparked something into the universe, because it wouldn't be right until oh gosh, I graduated this would literally be maybe 13 years later that I ended up in the industrial hemp world. I'm like, wow. And then looking back at college, so basically talking about how the synchronicity all unfolded here. And it wouldn't be until 2017, 2018, I moved up to Humboldt County. And that's where I now reside here, is in Humboldt County, in a little town of Arcata. I absolutely love it here.
Right in the heart of the industry.
Yes, right down the street, 5 minutes away is the Green Mile, we call it, where all the processes are. And yeah, it's an interesting world. But I used to come up here in 2009 to 2013 as a trimmer. I used to come up and trim when we used to get good money for trimming. So I've been up here for quite a while, but I just love the area, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna live there one day. But going back to, I moved here in 2017, 2018. And when I moved here, I ended up working on many, many cannabis farms throughout the week. And so what I was starting to see on various farms, and I would also be packaging and all sorts of this. I've been in the industry since 2009. So I've seen all segments of the industry in the cannabis space, that is.
Yeah.
And the plastic pollution that was coming out of the industry was shocking. I was like, but did I just start witnessing it, or was this always really here? I mean, we've always been putting every pound of cannabis in a turkey bag. And we still do this today. And I'm pretty sure it's the same with hemp flower. Before it gets to the distros, and then they package it into eighths or pre-rolls, or
anything smaller, right? The consumable.
But it will always come in a pound, and that pound is always in a turkey bag. But then it went from, I have to show this real fast. It went from, so I always have this aside. It went from, and then this is cultivation items. This is trellising. This is what everyone uses in cultivation. Yeah. So I was starting to see trellising and just packaging and everything.
Plastic mounds.
It was plastic mounds everywhere.
The plastic that goes around the plant, the plastic that goes on the floor, the plastic that separates the mount. Yeah.
It was everything. And it was just a light bulb. A light bulb went off. And I said, we can't be doing this. We cannot be doing this.
In our own industry that preaches sustainability
exactly.
and value, right? Here
there was that the hypocrisy of it, right? Going back to Jack Herrera's book, why it gets the fire burning when you think about an industry that's using and supporting so much of this petroleum plastic waste when we all know that we could be utilizing our own, right? Iconic projection. Yeah, Arcade is awesome. It's my favorite. I love it. Yeah, I mean, it's like when we have the ability to use our own waste, it's like this rawr, like this like anger.
And it adds that sustainability piece, right? I think something that's been really surprising to me, Heather, that I've learned, especially when I've started to look into what you just talked about, the amount of plastic and waste that our own industry is using, and the value that cannabis brings around the carbon, and it's biodegradable, and it's more healthy for our environment. And then we as businesses want to cut our bottom line or save a profit, and so we're using unsustainable packaging or
yeah, exactly. It's just like it's mind-blowing. Then you have regenerative and sustainable brands that their whole mission is to be eco-friendly, right? And they may be within their cultivation practices, right? They could be organic. We're talking no-till. We're talking dry farming, all of the above. But at the end of the day, that consumer who goes to the shop or the dispensary, they don't see your farm. They're not going to see how wonderful and organic and sustainable and regenerative your farm is. All they see is your packaging, right? And if that packaging is in petroleum-based plastic crapola, is what I say.
Good word for it.
That whole eco mission, unfortunately, is lost. I feel. And so I think that, a lot of the times, I mean, there's a lot of barriers to why it is why the packaging is the way it is. Overregulation, of course. And, it's the cost of petroleum-based packaging compared to our backyard compostable hemp bioplastic packaging there is a barrier there, right? And profit over the environment is a mindset that many people will continue to have as long as we are in survival mode.
I love that. Yeah.
And so the only way that a lot of, some of the challenges that we're facing, I think a lot of our hempreneurs out here, I'm sure a lot of the hempreneurs that you have interviewed, a lot of what we're facing, the challenges is cost and getting this hemp per pound, hemp bioresin per pound cost down as much as we possibly can. And if we can't do that,
we are going to do that.
And it's just going to take some time. And in terms of timing, that in order to get into the market today, it's going to come down to getting your tooling adequate enough to accommodate. Basically, it's kind of confusing, but in manufacturing talk, it's called injection molding. And if you can create a high injection mold of cavities, now your cost per pound or your cost per unit is going to go down because you're creating more units with one pull, basically. And so we have to spend in the hemp bioplastic space hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars just on tools.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a really good question, and I just want to pull this back up and let him know that what are those steps, right? You talked about reducing cost. What are the challenges that you've seen at reducing or that you've come across that are prohibiting the reduction of cost per package, right?
It's the polymer. I would say this time and time again, and it's not the hemp that's expensive in the hemp bioresin, right? It's the biopolymer that we are adding into the hemp herd, right?
Yeah.
So if we can create a polymer that is hemp derived, create our own polymer from the hemp plant, Now we are drastically decreasing our price because it's the PLA, it's the PBS, it's the PHA. All these polymers are very expensive. And so, yeah, go ahead.
Tell me what PBA, PLA, P whatever. I understand they're different types of plastics or polymers, but what does that mean? What are they?
So PBS is a marine and backyard biodegradable polymer. It is algae based. Okay. PLA is polylactic acid. So that is it's only industrial compostable, but it will compost in industry facilities, industrial composting facilities. Okay. PBS, PHA will be backyard compostable. And so I really wanted to go a backyard compostable route. That was my mission. It's definitely more expensive, but that was my mission. And I didn't really, because the industrial composting facilities are just, we don't have them readily available here. So I really wanted to do a backyard compostable route. That was like my whole mission. Yeah. Really close the loop as much as we possibly can. And so I think that's the number one thing is the polymer, the dang polymer issue. And so once we can get that polymer derived from the hemp plant, now you have 100% hemp. And it's not going to be this 25% hemp, 30% hemp mark. It'll be 100% hemp, and we can decrease this price per pound. So hopefully some biochemist engineers will come in somewhere. I'm not the biochemist. I just have this.
Hey, I think someone said something to me the other day. I had made a comment that I just don't know part of this business. I've never been in the shop. I'm not a machinist. And somebody said, what makes you a good entrepreneur, Mandi, is that you admit what you don't know. You're aware of this part. And so I'm going to give that kudos back to you, or really give props where it's due, is we have to be able to collaborate and stay in our lane with where our strengths are. And you clearly have made tons of progress, right, in what you're doing. So did you partner with people that are how did you develop this understanding that that's not your specialty or not your area of expertise? So
well, this has been about 3 years of development. This is a lot of trial and error, I guess you would say. We've gone through different prototypes, different manufacturers, different hemp suppliers, to find out what's going to align with our mission, and there were a lot of tears. Let me say, I'm like, oh no, it's over, but only to have to pivot. And I'm glad that I've had a lot of pivots over the last 3 years. And I'm glad that it's taken this long, because I wouldn't have found the bioresin or the partners that I was looking for 2 years ago, even a year ago. And I would be going with a different hemp resin that I didn't agree with, basically. Yeah,
sure.
There's a lot of hemp resin out there, hemp bioplastic space, there can be greenwashing in it. So there's hemp bioplastic that still has polypropylene in it. And I just don't understand it.
Well, I think that's something that I was taken aback by when I first got into this, that we only have to put 25% hemp resin or hemp fiber or hemp in a hemp labeled plastic bottle. So when I go to a store and buy a hemp plastic, it may only be 25% plastic or hemp, which therefore is not biodegradable at all.
Yes. So right? It really depends on that polymer.
Yeah.
You have to know what, you can call, but I don't know if they'll tell you, but you can call them and ask them, what polymer are you using with your hemp-based plastic? We always want it, if we are going with talking about hemp bioplastic, it's a hemp-based bioplastic, because that's the truth in it. It is hemp-based, right? Yeah. When we think about hemp bioplastic, for people who are very new to this, I always like to compare this to a Rice Krispie treat. Okay, so we have our Rice Krispies, and those are your hemp herds. Mm-hmm. And then you have your marshmallow cream, and that's your polymer. So basically, you're mixing your hemp herds, which are your Rice Krispies, and the polymer, which is your marshmallow, together to then we pelletize it and then throw it through molds, right? Just like plastic, they pelletize plastics and then throw it through molds.
Yeah.
So I think it is important. That's why I go back to polymerizing the hemp plant to get a polymer from the hemp plant. Now you're adding it to the hemp herd. Now that's 100% hemp. But I have to give it to the Hemp Foundation, just to put a little plug for them.
Yeah.
Because we have 85% hemp hemp mark. And then they do use a 25% PLA. But yeah, I mean, that's an option there. That's 85% hemp. So that's pretty damn close. That's the closest I've seen it. But it's in all of the industries, right? I mean, even the hempcrete, we still have to use lime. Even in the hemp wood, there's a polymer, there's a biopolymer, a binder, even in the hemp paper, so it's.
Well, and I think that this speaks too is hemp is not a replacement for everything. Hemp is a tool to make our business more sustainable, to make things last longer, to make them better for our environment, right? Or for our health, right? But to say that we're going to eliminate all plastics, especially as we are entering an emerging market, right? Or we're trying to capture a piece of an existing market, that the blends really do become impactful on carbon footprint or the change, but may not necessarily get us to this spot where we're not going to have this island of plastic in the middle of the ocean, right? Now, what frustrated me when you were talking about like what really fuels your fire or what got you into this, I had a similar experience, an aha moment when I realized that hemp has been banned or unavailable as long as the plastics market really started to emerge. And it infuriated me. I got mad inside. And so that's really what put me in this seat to say somebody has to be talking about this, and somebody has to notify businesses that there's an alternative option that's better, could potentially be more profitable in the long run. And
well, I definitely think it will be for the businesses. I mean, they look at it as an expense, but if they take their marketing expense solely to this, to changing their packaging into something that's going to stand out when you walk into that dispensary or store compared to the others, it's huge, right? You walk into many of these dispensaries, I've been to hundreds, but you say, hey, do you have any sustainable packaging? Where's your sustainable packaging? That's going to be one of my first questions I ask, because I'm a very eco-conscious consumer. I live my life even very zero waste, even my normal life outside of business. And there will be very few people that say, oh, here's the sustainable packaging we have. It's so limited. So I think that's a barrier too, is that we want to be sustainable, or a lot of brands want to be sustainable, but they can't switch over because there's so limited availability.
And education. It's amazing. I mean, and I go back to my own experience. I thought a hemp plastic bottle meant it was biodegradable because I had been told hemp is biodegradable, right? So I think it's the same thing when I go in and I ask somebody about a product, educating that bud tender about what is sustainable. What does it mean to have a sustainable package, or whoever's selling the packaging is taking a look at the whole picture. And
exactly. I mean, I think it's so important, because a brand that's going to spend more money on their packaging just so they can either, one, protect the environment, show their customers they care, even that cannabis is better in a non-sustainable packaging, I'm going to choose that company that cares, because they are showing a huge, a signpost in front of me saying like, I care. And that's who I want to support at the end of the day. You got to speak with their dollar, right? And I think a lot of people are going that route. It's going to take time. It's definitely going to take time. I think the plastic pollution awareness has just begun in the last couple of years. People are still very uneducated about it today, or maybe so into survival mode that they don't really care until it affects them. But yeah, I think that as more awareness becomes within the norm surrounding plastic pollution, I think that we'll have this will be just, there won't be petroleum plastic anymore. And not in like the next 10 years, biodegradable hemp-based bioplastic will be the norm. I don't think that as long as there's education. Yeah, there's so much I could say about this. That's why I'm like kind of like,
I could keep talking. Well, and I think this part is what gets me fired up, right? Is this like, we have solutions, and we've had solutions this whole time, right? But whether it's greed or survival mode or whatever we want to put our finger on to blame how we got to where we are, I'm with you that plant-based plastics are our future, right?
Yes.
It's going to take, what is that time frame before we can get there and to make those substitutes? And reality, I don't know that all plastics will be plant-based, just because there are some items or some products that have different requirements or standards or expectations, right? However,
it's the petroleum industry. I think they had a lot to do with overregulation in the industry of the cannabis industry. And since, I remember I was a bud tender up in Oregon in 2019 and 2017, before I moved to Humboldt, and we could do deli style. So I would have people bring in their containers, bring in your container. We'll reuse it, right? And people would bring it in, and I would refill it because it was deli style. The regulation for child-resistant packaging wasn't there yet, and so it's really the overregulation that has stepped in. On even the cultivation side of the industry, right? So talking about metric tags, even every plant has to be tagged with this little plastic metric tag in the cannabis industry. I mean, like, how many? I know people who have thousands and thousands of plants, like 10,000 plants on their farm, and that's 10,000 tags every year. You can't even reuse or anything or recycle. I mean, it's crazy, but it's really the overregulation, I think, has a lot to do with the petroleum industry. I think the petroleum industry, they saw their way in to the cannabis industry, and they said, oh, we're regulating that. And even in Canada, I just found out they have to have child-resistant packaging in Canada, even for their CBD flower. Here in California, you don't have to have child-resistant for CBD. But in Canada, the whole country has to have child-resistant for their CBD flower. That's crazy. But again, I think I call them the petroleum gangsters. They rule the world, and so they saw their little greedy hands in it. But if the regulation wasn't there, that states every single product has to be prepackaged in a child-resistant container prior to getting to the dispensary, we wouldn't be in this plastic pollution mess, and we would have an easier way to navigate it. But they were like, oh no, we can see some money here.
Well, I think that it's similar with like big pharma, right? That, they've got a stronghold, and there's a reason hemp has not been available, right? And it's not just the paper industry. There's all of these big industries that when I say we, I'm speaking about us as an industry, threaten or pose threaten on their pocketbooks and a threat. Okay, so Kayla, I don't know if you're still listening, but she made an awesome comment. She said a large portion of our country doesn't even have office home recycling options, or doesn't even offer home recycling options. We have to make a long-term real change to educate everyone around us.
Yes.
And then right following that, I made a comment that not all plastic items can be replaced. And she says, I respectfully disagree, which I'm going to I hope that is the case. And because I too have a little bit of concern or a little bit of reservation about how this is going to work, especially as we're getting into the medical fields, right? In medical industry. Long term, you're right. I don't understand enough about the plastic. Go ahead.
I think reusables. I think if we need to really go into reusables more. And I mean, for instance, like this little jar, like this is my little water jar, but I won't, at the grocery store, I won't buy my salsa or anything in a plastic container unless it's a glass jar, because then I can reuse it easier. I can make it into my drinking glasses or whatnot. So I think we need more stores that provide bulk reusables. We need to get this recycling out of our mindset. I mean, it's great for now, but in the future, recycling, it's been a sham. It's really a sham. Only 9% of plastics has ever been recycled. I think if we can create an actual infrastructure, a better recycling infrastructure, then we can go that route. But right now, there's so much, it's just wishful recycling. I honestly don't even know why we have recycling bins here in California because, oop, I dropped something in my eye. Oh, I knew something was going to happen.
It's a hard pill to swallow when you are so passionate about recycling and doing your due diligence to separate products and items, and then to find out once it leaves your home, very little of it actually goes into the market. Are you okay?
Oh yeah, I got something in my eye, but I think I'm good now.
Yeah,
it'll come out eventually. But yeah, I mean, the recycling system here in Humboldt has shut down. We don't have recycling anymore, and it's just. And I live out here in a very rural area, outskirts of Arcata, and we take care of our own trash. So we have to go to the dump, and we have to go to the recycling. And so I see everything, right? I see what we create, the waste that we create.
Right.
Ooh, 1 second.
Well, and it's very different when someone is so like myself that I put my garbage outside my front door and someone comes to pick it up. That's a very, well,
it's a very, I think that is what separates us. Yeah. I mean, I literally am able to see what waste I'm creating because I have to separate everything. And I don't think people realize it. They just, just throw it away. It just, this is recyclable, when half of it's not even recyclable, but we'll just wishful put it in there. And so we need to take a step back and say, okay, we either need to create reusables, right? Or we need to create things that are compostable. Either or. But recycling, until there's like an actual infrastructure that's working, we have to take a step back. And even you look at Sun and Earth certification, I love the people, but you look at their packaging requirements. It's recyclable, compostable, biodegradable. Okay, so that's basically anything, because anybody can say my shit's I don't want to say this shit. My packaging is recyclable, right? So yeah, I think the whole thing.
So there's been a couple of comments I want to touch on, and then I saw you hold up one of your products or items, so I want to dive into those and show off kind of what they are. But there have been some great comments made. Just curious about what's your opinion on how we get these petroleum gangsters onto the same page that we're all talking about? You know, how do we bridge that gap? Because I think that this is a big, and again, I think we in the industry need to remember that in the past, anytime somebody brings up sustainability, investors have backed away because it has not been profitable, right? We have an opportunity now to discuss the profitability and sustainability in the same conversation, but it has to be around the economic impact or around that money, right? And so in your opinion, what are those key points, that make it an economic value or a smart decision financially when we talk about their pocketbook?
Yeah, I mean, we got to get that price per pound lower than the petroleum waste. I don't know how we would do that. I mean, that's the thing. It's how long have we been using petro waste to create plastics? I mean, since the 1950s, right? And so they've been in that infrastructure for so long. I mean, I don't know how possibly we can get this price per pound lower than the petroleum waste. The PP, the polypropylene resin, right? How do we get our hemp-based bioresin lower than the polypropylene resin? I mean, I think that's just a wishful thinking, because
so I've got an idea. This is something that comes up a lot, right? As we get into this and we start to do life cycle analysis and we figure out from farm to end product, the footprint that we create or the carbon footprint that is being developed, when we're able to put a dollar sign to that carbon impact or to the Earth's impact from, fracking or extracting versus using what we're growing, a renewable source, then we can put the money to it, the dollar sign to it. So there may be a bigger dollar up front, but the penalties for what we're doing to our planet may be substantial on the back end, and being able to address it from that perspective. And I'm seeing a lot of LCAs come out around the plastics that are proving the value, right? And so, I don't know where you are in that process, but I really think, the more we do studies, the more we're able to show that economic impact that's being made,
If they get subsidies, I say if they had were given tax subsidies, right, to create hemp bioresin or to utilize it within their manufacturing practices, they would be interested. But it has to. The only way that the petroleum gangsters, who I say, the only way that they're going to budge is if they see a profit, because they're profit over environment. It's clear as day, as they're like the child poster or signpost for profit over environment is the petroleum industry, right?
Right.
So that's all they care about is that grain. We have to sell them that grain.
I believe what we say comes true, right? And I do believe that we have an option to make that impact. And there are a ton of companies that are putting lots of money, especially in the oil and gas space or energy sector, to say like, we want to make a change and we want to do better, right? And so, yeah, I think plastics is a perfect place where we can really merge that, especially as we start to develop this market. But there is definitely going to be some pushback. I mean,
oh yeah,
1% of their revenue is still 1%.
Exactly. I mean, it's just going to be it's just got to be educated. I mean, we got everyone to put a mask on their face for 2 years. I mean, we can get people to realize that that plastic is a serious issue that our planet is facing.
Yes.
And that your dollar, even if it seems small, or like even if it seems small, your choices do make a difference. And
yes.
People will tell me this all the time, like, oh, I'm just a drop in the ocean. But I always tell people drops make ripples, and that if we can all be that drop that makes a ripple, and if we all said no to plastic, and it's really hard, even myself, sometimes I'll slip up here, but it'll be a huge difference.
Well, and again, convenience, right? We've become so accustomed to convenience. Even I do.
It goes back to survival. Yeah.
Yeah. The water bottle. And it's funny when you brought up your water jug, your water glass. I kind of laughed the other day. Somebody was unloading my dishwasher and said, I love that you drink water out of bud jars. And I was like, what's a pesto jar? Like, my cabinet is full of jars. And so it's funny that they just like, oh, you're drinking out of a bud jar. No.
I have so many jars. I have a whole thing of lids, and oh yeah, I'm gonna have to do a art. I've been thinking about doing like an art project with all the lids, but yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so talk to me about your product. I want to see what it looks like. What is the value of it? Yeah, talk to me a little bit about the whys and ins and outs.
Oh yeah. I wonder if I have. Oh yeah. It goes. Okay. So basically, this has been prototype after prototype after prototype. Okay, that didn't work. That wasn't manufacturable, because again, with hemp bioresin, it doesn't work like your normal polypropylene. So you gotta work with it a little bit with your design. So we had originally, this is our prototypes. We have our child-resistant pre-roll tube with the push and turn. That's what makes it child-resistant. And we have the child-resistant jars. Yeah. So since, and I could talk about this for a while, but I won't. This lid here, we have to get to blow moldable hemp bioresin. Right now, we are only subjected to injection molding capabilities only. We need to create a resin that's blow moldable. Then we can create these little lips, because we have to blow mold, just like glass. You think about glass and blowing. And just for instance, who's listening may not understand manufacturing talk. A water bottle is blow molded. When you look at a water bottle, that's blow molded. That cap of that water bottle is injection molded. So that's what I'm talking about here. So we only have...
That's a good difference.
Mm-hmm. So right now we only have injection molding capabilities. We can't create little lips like this. We can't create little tubes like this, because we have to blow. And so until we can create that resin, we decided, all right, well, we need to get into the market. And this is really a demand in the cannabis industry, is these so we created child-resistant closures, or lids, you can call them, for the glass bodies.
Okay.
And I didn't want to supply any glass that was from China or anything like that. So we're going to be supplying some glass from California.
Okay.
But we have our and this is my logo, but you can plate your own logo. The brand could do its own logo on top. Plating helps without having to do labeling. So you don't have to put a label on here with your logo. You know, you can literally just stamp it like a stamp.
Yeah.
And so we also did it for the jars. We have little child resistant closures for the jars. And you see the little hemp herds. That's what I wanted the packaging to look like with the specks in them. So that we can, kind of hard to see on this camera. My camera's not very hot. Oh, wow. Hello, people. Yeah. So like you can see these little specks. That's what I really wanted into the packaging. So you can see like, wow, that's hemp herd. And for marketing, you know, a marketing standpoint, you know, you have this container next to, say, a plastic plain container. This is like plastic plain container, but you know, you can see these like little specks. And for a marketing standpoint, especially eco-conscious consumers, like, wow, that you can automatically tell that's a plant material.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about how they hold up, right? When we talk, because people always say, well, if hemp's biodegradable, if I put my straw in my water, will it just dissolve? Or
yes. It has to have microorganism activity. So say I can put it in my compost and it can break down because the microorganisms are eating it. The soil is breaking it down, but it's not gonna just break down right on your shelf. Now, this for instance, this lid that I have too. This is for a bigger. It started to break down actually a little bit, and this has been here for about a year, right? But that's only because like we were messing with it and like really like
giving it its test.
Yeah, you know, picking at it and stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing is with this type of packaging, even if it does break down within a year, it doesn't really stand around for more than a few months on the shelf. But it wouldn't break down like that. It definitely has to have
microorganisms.
Yeah. But even if it was in the marine environment, microorganisms in the water can break that down too. So yeah, definitely. That's what I'm thinking about, you know, with ocean pollution, right? Like that would be it'd be horrible if I created a product that couldn't break down, right, fast enough. And then it pollutes the ocean. But once this stuff breaks down, it's food, really, you know, because it's all plant-based. There's no chemicals of polypropylene or any of like toxic materials within that it's made. I have the material data sheet, so I know exactly what's in this. You know, so that's important, I think.
How far do you think we are from blow mold plastics? And I asked
because blow moldable?
Yeah, there's a huge company that I'm aware of that's come to me and said, hey, do we have any blow mold plastics? Because we're struggling with the sustainability aspect and importing from other countries. And so, yeah, how far are we? Because that's a huge market it's
a huge one. And that's what I've been trying to get into custom compounding, you know, talking to biochemists, you know, seeing like who's out there. I have a wonderful guy who's been sending me contacts about this person or this person may be able to help. But it really is going to be down to nano hemp technology. It's going to be down to, it's way over my head. I know what needs to happen, how to do it beyond me. But that's where people networking, partnering, trying to find that biochemist. All right, let's create a polymer out of hemp. When we could do it out of corn, we could do it out of algae. I mean, why can't we do it out of our own hemp?
We can. We will. It will just take time, right?
That's for the polymers. I think we're talking about blow molding. Well, actually everything goes together. But so yeah, I mean, it's going to be custom compounding. Whoever is into that, you know, R&D. I wish I had the funds to do it, but I don't.
So I'm going to put a shout out. I saw there's a couple of people that are listening that are in this space. I would love to invite you guys to come on and let's do a panel discussion or a roundtable discussion about these, the different plastics and what do we need collectively to be able to open that market or get into it. And just now you had mentioned the, Lacey, that's exactly who I was thinking of. She said that we can do blow mold plastics. So Lacey, I would love to talk about it more. She actually sent me a message while we were talking, but we'll definitely get you wrapped into a discussion or up on a panel because, I just think there's so many opportunities here.
Well, when we get to blow mold, we can do containers. And I've had a lot of people contact me for containers and not even just like tincture bottles or stuff. That's what I'm thinking, but amendments. Like I've had fertilizing companies, amendment companies contact me to create products for them, but that all I can't yet because I have to get to blow mold.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's exciting because it's definitely coming, and especially understanding how big that component of this plastics market is or industry is, right? What would you say, you had mentioned earlier, you need funding for research, right? There's a lot of grant money out right now that's coming down the pipeline. What assistance or what support do you need to really get yourself over that finish line when it comes to, to product development or research? Is it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I'd say it's funding, right? It's like getting the leap over because our tools are so expensive. That's why that's why you're not seeing a bunch of hemp bioplastic packaging out there is because getting involved initially is very capital intensive. Yes. Not everyone has rich family friends. Wish I did, but it's just not the case. But we've already put in $30,000 into this within the last 2.5 years, right? Sure. Almost 3 years. And so, that's what we really need to get forward is being able to purchase our high injection cavity molds. We need like 32 cavities. These are a couple $100,000, but we need these high cavities in order to get our unit price down so we can branch out and more brands are going to be willing to purchase this and we can get more petroleum plastic crapola out of the industry. Yeah. So,
and really we can service our consumers. Our consumers are now willing to pay with their dollar. They're voting with their dollar, right? And they care about this consumable product. Yes. And it's almost embarrassing within our own industry that we preach the sustainability.
I can't. No, it kills me. Like, that's where I'm like, okay, guys, like, here we are being like, oh, hemp can save the planet. And then it's like, here's our hemp barrel wrapped in plastic, or here's our hemp CBD flower wrapped in plastic. And I'm just like, sustainability doesn't end at like, we can't be sustainable. Yes. And if we're still creating tons of single-use plastic, we can't, it's not sustainable. We have to figure out, it's bringing a new element to what sustainability looks like. It's not just organic, it's not just pesticide-free or, no-till, dry farmed, all of this stuff. It's what about plastic-free? What about petroplastic-free? That needs to be a thing.
Yeah. Okay, so there was another question really quick about will that polymer work for things like coffee cups, just along the lines of something that is mass produced and highly thrown away? Just seeing it brought into a vision of coffee cups like Dutch Bros or Starbucks cups is their disposability, right? And that's exactly who we're talking about. And that's what we need as an industry, in my opinion, to be able to move this product into consumers' hands. It's one thing for us to talk about it. It's another thing for them to look at it and say, oh, wait, what? This was grown in our own state or around our own borders, and it's biodegradable and it's compostable and it's sustainable, or all of those buzzwords that our consumers are looking for.
Right. And I think that, will it be Dutch Bros or Starbucks who knows who they're backed behind, to be honest, but
hopefully it'd be a perfect, that right there would be a game changer.
It would be great, but if they were probably getting those cups for pennies, from China, I bet you. So it's like, it's competing with the price, but if it would be like a boutique coffee shop, a local mom and pop coffee shop, then I think those are more likely the people, the target that would change over right now. these big corps, I don't know.
I think you said something really important. Long term, will we see it at McDonald's and Walmart and Starbucks and Dutch Bros? Yes. Initially, starting at that smaller tier, right? We always talk in our conversations about tier one auto industry. But really, where we need to penetrate first is who supplies those industries. Who is that smaller provider? Who's building those products, right? Who are those mom and pop shops or those smaller lumber companies? Because once those catch on, it's much easier to scale, and it gives companies like yours that leg up to drop cost to compete with the corporate America or the bigger, Fortune 100s or larger companies, where that penny difference is a game changer for a company. Right.
Yeah.
In cost.
Yeah.
And so, I think that yes, long-term, we absolutely will see it. But I think we in the industry need to be realistic about how we get our products into market and starting at that small scale, because even going into a Starbucks as an example, and I keep throwing that out just because it was mentioned, but say going into a Starbucks, our supply to meet their demand isn't there yet. We just don't have it. And so I think that being able to bridge that gap, or what's your opinion? Do you think we have the supply to meet a demand?
Honestly, no, not yet. I think that we need more decortication facilities, more people with compounders in the hemp bioplastic space. We'll definitely need more of that. Yeah, definitely the compounders is a big thing. We got a few compounders here in North America who are doing the hemp bioplastic space. And that's a big section of this industry. We need more R&D in.
Agreed. Tim made a great comment. Supply chain management includes control and leverage of contract negotiation and purchase limits. This is a huge piece that has to be talked about. We all have big visions of meeting these great big demands, but how do we get there and being able to meet the expectation within each of those contracts, right? Because if we go into, I was saying earlier to somebody else, if we go into a large company touting that we can do something and fail, the door closes on that opportunity. And so being able to actually fulfill on our promise is critical in managing those agreements. And so, I always encourage people when we talk about, building door panels or auto parts, who is it that supplies those tier one auto first, and then look at breaking in, or getting into bigger agreements. And so
exactly, how to organically grow. That's what I like to call it.
There you go. Exactly. So real quick, I see lots and lots of people are watching. Leave us a note. Let us know where you're chiming in from. We'd love to say hello. Lacey, you've given us some great feedback today, and so thank you very much. Tim, hello as well. Kayla, of course, jumped on. But let us know where you're hollering in from or coming in from. So Heather, where do you envision your company in the next year? Where are you guys headed? What challenges are you really going to butt up against? And where can the industry step in to support?
Yeah, so in the next year, I'm really hoping, we get this capital in, we can get going. Like, this has been it's been a long road, and I feel like I'm this entrepreneur in this, I always think about this thick jungle, right? And I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs think this, but you're in this thick jungle and you got everyone else like walking this path, like drinking their little, I don't know, espressos and like, oh yeah, this is so easy, this is so fun, even though it's not. And you're over here just like hacking away. It's like dehydrated and like, oh, I just need some help, from above to keep going on this path, right? So I think in the next year, I'm hoping we can get our tools are created. We have a blow moldable resin. We can create the bodies of our containers. So people who don't want glass, even though that's the thing, a lot of people are going to stick with glass in this industry. But people who don't want glass, we can, provide them our full bodies.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm thinking. And then also, by the end of this year, I want to get over to cultivation and get at least a CAD design done for our next cultivation items, because I want to point out that we're not just a packaging company, or else it would be called Heathers Hemp Packaging. But it's Heathers Hemp Alternatives, because our vision is to really bring this hemp-based bioplastic, these products all the way from cultivation to packaging. So if it's greenhouse tarping, trellising, amendments, everything, on that cultivation side to packaging. I didn't want to limit ourselves to just packaging. So we're coming out with, what is in the norm of the industry, which is our pre-rolls and our little jars. And I'm having another jar come this next week. It's a non-CR jar that I'm going to be able to supply non-child resistant more for CBD flowers. So I'll be able to, I'll promote that probably in the next couple of weeks. It'll come in the mail and I'll show you guys. But yeah, I think that I hope within the next 5 years, even we can be utilizing the cannabis byways to create products. Why not? So I have a lot of visions, but I'm thinking the canna herd. Why not?
Yeah. Okay. So can you share a little bit about volume that you need, as well as the standards or specs of product to put into, so that if I'm building processing or somebody else is out and like, hey, I want to supply you, what is the expectation for product that you're receiving?
Yeah. So, we're hoping to create at least 2.5 million to 5 million units a year off of our tools, right? So, I'm not sure exactly how many pounds that would be. But yeah, we're going to need quite a lot of hemp bioresin for this project.
And that's something I want to look at too, is when we talk about acreage needed to supply a facility like yours.
Yeah.
What realistically are we up against? And you're one manufacturer of plastics, right? So just imagine if we scaled your operation, what does that look like for our input and our acreage realistically?
That's a wonderful thought. I haven't even thought about that. It was like being on the hemp farming side and how much they would need for acreage. That's very, very interesting. And I also want to make this clear is that we're manufacturing in upstate New York. So I'm not the manufacturer, but my manufacturers are in upstate New York. And they're so lovely, but they've been working with me for the last year, and they're just like, anytime I need them, they're there. And like, that's like, you have to have a really good relationship with your manufacturer. I think it's super important when you're creating your products from scratch, especially. But I got a little brain fart.
Okay, we were talking about acreage and specs.
Yes.
What is that? Is it, like when we talk about micronized fiber or micronized, right?
Yeah.
How dry is it? What's the size of it? Or is that something your manufacturer kind of keeps under wraps?
So that would be more of my compounders. So the compounders I'm working with. So yeah, we have the manufacturers where I send our hemp bioresin material, right? Our hemp-based bioresin material or pellets that's already pelletized. So, and then the compounders, they're also on the East Coast, but the compounders, they pelletize it. And then I basically purchase my bioresin from them, send it to my manufacturers to throw into the injection mold machine. And so it really is the compounders who are the guys who are creating the hemp-based bioresin and who purchase the hemp material, who purchase the polymers, and then they compound it and pelletize it. Will I be that person in the future? Maybe, but I would like to work with these people to do custom compounding for the company.
Okay, we're almost in an hour, but I have a question really quick.
Okay.
Advice to other people getting into this industry, right? Just now we talked about, hey, we want to jump to the top and we want to go after Starbucks. I tend to jump to that manufacturer to get specs from. What you just shared is like going to the next level. I don't know if down or across, but a different sector into compounding. What advice would you have for people looking to get into the industry to learn what those specs are or to explore the volume that's needed, right? As people are trying to supply the inputs for this demand, who do they go to? Where do we find these details? How did you find a compounder that created a product that then fed the manufacturer? What was your experience in that?
Oh, that's a lot of Googling. Yeah, years and years of research, honestly. I mean, it's constantly networking, connecting, finding people who are able to do that for you, compounding. I would look into, if you just put in biocompounders on Google, this is honestly what I did. And I tried, and I kept calling people, emailing people, hey, do you do this? And there's people from all over the world who are in this right now. Few in the US, but there are people all over in India, in Australia, New Zealand, and all over that are compounders, wherever you're at, So I chose a compounder that I was comfortable with, and that had the material that I wanted to use. So that was hard, because a lot of people have like hemp PP, hemp polypropylene. A lot of people have hemp ethylene, or hemp PLA, but that wasn't the way I wanted to go. That wasn't the resin I felt comfortable with. So I had to find a compounder who was going to provide the resin I wanted to go with, which was an algae-based polymer. And so, I think it's finding a manufacturer. If you want to get into hemp, you want to create something, finding a manufacturer who is willing and able to work with hemp-based bioplastic, because not everyone is, and not everyone is knowledgeable about it. Even finding someone who is knowledgeable about bioplastics in general is going to be a good one. You don't want to go to like just some plastic manufacturer who's never even dabbled with plant-based material bioresin in the very beginning, because it's going to just give you I've realized it can give you a lot of backup time and heartache, and just go with somebody who knows how to work with plant-based bioresin first. Then, hey, are you interested in experimenting with hemp-based bioresin? Yes? Okay, hey, can I send you some micronized hemp hurd and see if they might be able to compound it yourself. If you can find a manufacturer who can compound too, that'd be great, because then you can do everything in one house. Yeah.
Hey, I just made some notes, because we're gonna come back to this in a couple of weeks, or when you get some more stuff going. But okay, so we're at an hour. I want to be respectful of your time. I'd love to invite you back, but how do people get in touch with you if they want product, if they want to talk? Yeah, and then what is it you need? How can we as a community really support your growth?
Yeah, so feel free to get in contact with me. Sorry, get in contact with me at Heathers Hemp Alt at gmail.com. It's all one word. And also, I'm going to be posting some more of like my product catalog. That'll be up and coming. I'm not very web savvy. So anybody who is interested in helping me with my website, like, I'm very non-techy. And so that's what's been kind of hard for me. So I don't know if anyone's been waiting for the product catalog. It's my tech side that's struggling. And so, heathershempalternatives.com. And you'll see the product catalog there, hopefully here soon, once I can get some help. And also, I think I already gave you my email, and then my Instagram. I'm pretty active on there. Heathers Hemp Alternatives. My Clubhouse. I'm on Clubhouse more than I should be.
I want to invite you on Thursday afternoon. There's a building materials. It's like 5 p.m. Sustainable building materials. And they talk about all different things in hemp. And something I want to do, or I'm going to put this out there, I'm sure other people have thought about it, is those electric boxes in the construction space that are made out of hemp, or that are made out of plastic, right? It's a perfect injection mold opportunity. And so when we look at like hemp plastics, not just packaging, but moving into, different markets with the same tools, the same resources. And so once we're able to solidify that, but I'll definitely include you. I'll send you a link or something for that Clubhouse as well, because it's a good one.
Okay. Yeah, and then if you guys want samples, I can send out. I've got samples of the child-resistant closures. They will fit any 53-400 neck like glass jar, and I have the child-resistant closures that are 18-400 thread. I always like to put the size out there because I think it's important. So I can send out samples anywhere. So let me know if you'd like to see any samples. Just send me a DM. That actually helps me, and then I'll put you on my Excel. my Excel email list, and please let me know if you need glass or not. And so I can send you glass bodies if you need.
Are you going to be bringing any to NOCO with you?
Oh okay. Yeah, and I'm actually gonna talk to my manufacturer, hopefully this week, and just say if I can get some more different containers that they have for me, and tell them I'm going to NOCO. I need everything.
Yeah. Well, stop by our booth. I'd love to look at them and share them.
Cool.
I'm a huge advocate for our industry to focus on the sustainability piece, right? And so, this is a small piece of the potential that hemp plastic has, but it's a huge market even within our own industry. And so yeah, it's pretty exciting. You've done an incredible job. I'm really, really proud of all of your success. I've watched your journey over the last little while, and so it's been exciting. I'd love to have you come back as well. And if anybody else has questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Don't hesitate to reach out.
I love that.
At any time. Anything else you want to conclude with or close up with?
Oh, no, I just think, if you guys are out there, just educate others on plastic pollution. And if you guys don't know a lot about it, educate yourself. We gotta really I don't think everyone knows that plastic is made from the petroleum bywaste. I think that's the number one thing we need to educate people. Yeah. So that's my only thing is let's not be a part of the pollution, but a part of the solution.
There you go. Yes. And again, let's talk about that economic piece. Let's talk about that money piece as well.
And funding. We can't move forward from here unless we get some funding. So if anybody is interested in coming up on this venture with me, my heart goes out to you.
Have you looked into, or are you participating in any of the big grants that are available?
I really am interested in applying to some grants. I have actually tweaked my pitch deck to take out all of cannabis because you can't mention anything cannabis, or it's a no-no. Even, I've tried an SBA loan and I wasn't able to because my target market's the cannabis industry, even though I'm a non-plant touching company, but my it's been tough. So, even some of these crowdfunding sites I wasn't able to get on because I'm cannabis focused. So, I think that I need to really create another deck that just takes out all the cannabis related information and try to go for a grant. But I mean, grant writing with a grant writer is something that I would love to hire if I had the finances to do so.
It's cool because USDA for those of you that don't know, there's $1 billion grant out right now, grant opportunity from the USDA for infrastructure build around climate smart commodities. So trying to find somebody to partner up with for this may be a huge benefit. The first tranche application is due April 1st and second tranche a few months later. First tranche is 500 million or 5 million to 100 million. Second tranche is 250,000 to 5 million. And so partnering up or really coupling up with other groups that are doing similar research may be a great avenue. I'll send you the link, Heather, as to where you can get on and look. Awesome. Oh, and Lisa just said it's 1.5 billion. Wow. The $1 billion climate smart commodity, exchange. Wow. There's two, and then I think I saw somewhere in there, don't quote me, that it's 50 grants going to be distributed out of that 1 billion or 1.5 billion.
Wow. Okay.
And so also keep in mind, the money was distributed to make impact during Biden's term. And so it's going to be distributed very quickly. And so making sure ducks are in a row and we've got all of our business structure set up before applying for the grant, because it will be distributed to people who are in the system, who have a foundation. And then I've also seen a ton of groups come together to partner on these so that they can make a great impact. But even with this isn't the last round of money that's coming in to support supply chain and infrastructure build and carbon smart commodities. Wow, carbon smart commodities. And so, Yeah, if I can help you. And then any grant writers that are out there, give Heather or I a shout out. There's a lot of buzz in the industry right now with people looking for grant writers, but there are a lot of opportunities to secure funding based on success. And so I'd love to help you, Heather. And then I know Lacey said she'd love to help you as well. And so,
awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
You guys are awesome. I really, really appreciate your time, Heather. Let's stay in touch, and I can't wait to see you.
Oh, I can't wait. Yay.
Great. Anybody else that is going to NOCO, please drop by our booth. I think that I put a tag up earlier that I probably pulled down, but get on the NOCO website. Make sure you get your tickets. We are hosting an awards banquet on Thursday night to highlight leaders in the industry, those that are really making an impact on carbon sequestration and women in agriculture, leadership within our industry. And I'd love you to nominate, get on our website, globalhempassociation.org, scroll down a little bit and nominate leaders within the industry so that we can make sure that they're included as well. But get on the NOCO website, NOCO Hemp Expo website, and get your tickets as soon as you can, because they are moving fast. So other than that, Heather, thank you so much for joining, and we'll see everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that I was just going to look at my schedule really quick. We've got a meeting coming up on Thursday afternoon at, looks like 3:00 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're really breaking down the education gaps in the industry so that we can work with universities and other professionals to start gathering data and start filling some of these gaps. So that, to speak to what Heather had mentioned earlier, we can address, instead of spending years Googling, hopefully be able to a tool where we can, speed that up, fast track that. And credit going back to our team at Global Hemp Association for really working to do that for you listeners. So anyways, thank you very, very much. We'll see you guys